some people are probably thinking like, well, is press dead? Does anybody watch the news anymore? Nobody reads the newspaper. Why would I even want to get listed would be my next question.
Yeah, I think that where and how people are wanting to get featured in 2026 has changed. It's not just Ink and Fast Company, it's podcasts, it's emails, it's popular Substacks, and more. I think that it's, again, a matter of identifying which outlets are going to be valuable for you and which ones allow you to reach your customers and your audience. So I think that there's an evolving landscape of PR and how that is shifting and changing. Reactive PR, as we defined, is still a pretty critical component of that. And there's still a lot of value to getting featured in some of those traditional media outlets, because if you look at LLMs and you look at how those citations are generated, it's from trusted, authoritative, relevant sources. And so getting featured in LLMs starts with getting featured in traditional media.
Yeah, that's really where I was going to go next, is just the power of that for SEO and AEO. But also, I think just in general, when we think about all the AI generated slop that's out there, an actual curated original piece by a reporter or original thought of yours that gets featured somewhere becomes valuable, because everything else becomes like a photocopy of a photocopy. And eventually, there's going to be an insane demand for original content. What's your take on that? Do you see it becoming more or less of a factor as we go forward in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, look, you see it with a lot of the companies now today that are generating human data from true domain experts and are using those to fill in knowledge gaps with these models. You're seeing company like model builders have to go to specialized doctors, lawyers, accountants, finance professionals, and ask them very specific questions to get their answers so they can improve those model outputs. Same thing is going to be true, and that's really around post-training LLMs. The pre-training is you have to get stuff that is going to fill these niche gaps that you've got. It's got to be timely, it's got to be relevant, it's got to be towards 2026. Where does that information come from? And ultimately, you've got to continue to feed these LLMs so that it has positive outputs, and they're going to be on a hunt to find that information so that they could satisfy customer demand. So I would agree. I think that the pre-training side of things just gets increasingly harder, and the more niche that you are, probably the more valuable the content that you're creating.
Now, there's also an interesting subdivision of being cited by LLMs, which is there are actually AI reporters and things out there now. I think it's easy we saw it first with sports scores, where it's like, okay, an AI could read a box score and give a nice summary of what happened in a game, because we know so-and-so got a triple. We know this was the winning run, whatever. It's pretty easy to write there. But I don't see that stopping at that. I think some of these bigger places are going to have a lot of AI generated stories in the future. How about you?
Yeah, totally. I think that, like, I've got a 12, soon to be 13-year-old son who plays baseball, and there's the Game Changer app that literally produces stories about my son's 12-year-old game. And like now the coverage is expanded in that. I think a more practical example that's a little more meaningful is the rise of news deserts and how many local publications have had to shut down. And AI has stepped up essentially to do this big data analysis of all these municipality reports, police reports, things of that nature that's happening in these different towns. AI is able to monitor all of that different stuff, generate stories, have a human in the loop to essentially determine if this is a story that's worth publishing. And now these news deserts are starting to revive themselves with the help of AI. I think that's really an important trend to monitor.
Yeah, me too. My first guest on this podcast, actually, people can go back to episode 1, was the founder of Ancestry.com, has a new AI startup that's doing that, of recording and taking the transcripts from local municipalities who are like, no reporter is going to the whatever Poughkeepsie City Hall like town meeting or planning board meeting and summarizing that anymore. So how do you use AI to do that? Have you thought about how featured plays into that, or how you could take advantage of these things by getting into those loops with data?
Yeah, I think featured is a place where on the publisher side, you could get free, high quality content that's written by real humans. So I think that we're seeing more and more websites be created as news destinations. And ultimately, it can't be all AI generated. to be valuable. And I think that there's a lot more opportunities that are going to be opening up for true experts who are interested in submitting a byline article, who are interested in submitting commentary for content refreshes or new article creation. And so I think that it's a pretty exciting time where media is being redefined and humans are the value add to making that content interesting.
Do you have a favorite use case for featured.com for like small businesses or somebody like if we're thinking about, okay, this all sounds great, I would love to do that, but either they don't have the ideas or they don't know the use case or how that works for their business or they get a return. Like what is kind of like your hero story of if I could tell everybody to do this is how it works?
Yeah, Featured is your personal PR agent. So that's accessible to anyone where if you sign up, you get a personal PR agent that will find you media opportunities, draft you suggested responses, and then email you that response to approve or make edits. And so the hero story in this is like everyone has knowledge to share, especially small business owners. They have 17 plus years of accumulated knowledge about equipment financing or credit repair or whatever it is. And you've probably have documents, you probably have blog posts, you have podcasts, you have different stuff that you've already created. If you're able to ingest that to essentially formulate your knowledge base within Featured, now we could use that knowledge base to identify stuff that you actually want to talk about. We could draft a response that actually sounds like you, but it doesn't replace you because you are needed to actually say, yes, this is good, please submit. So I think the call to action here is if you want to get featured in the media, go to featured.com, you get a personal PR agent and see what kind of stuff comes through.